What's going on, guys? Appreciate you stopping in. Did my recap video of the game last night. I'll throw it at the end if you want to check it out. But just wanted to go through a couple of different components in some more detail because I saw a lot of your comments, and instead of replying to everyone, I'll just make a video. Talk about Zach Wilson, the Jets running back room. Are we completely over talking about Dalvin Cook? And the ridiculous overreactions to this Jets draft class, right? And it was a bad draft, and the Joe Tippmann panic, all pretty silly in my opinion. And the star that is born in Will McDonald. Yes, I don't need to, wait to see him take more steps or just let him play, Sonny. No, enough. We said that with Brees and Garrett and Sauce. He's the real deal, and I'm excited to gush about why in this one. Now, let's start with Zach. It's funny because in the last 24, 48 hours, the pregame show, I'm getting called a Zach hater by my guys, Hawk and Michael Fox. I love you. It's all good. We can disagree because I'm like, look, man, what Zach Wilson did looked a little bit different than guys like Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes. Okay, not a hot take there. But I also see in my recap video, I'm saying positive things about Zach's performance, and it's like, well, he's number 2 overall pick. This is ridiculous. He still sucks. His Jets are screwed if Rodgers goes down, and it's really all about perspective. The last 2 years, we've been looking at Zach Wilson and evaluating him with the criteria that he's the highest draft pick we've had in the 21st century, and he's supposed to be to go ahead and do franchise quarterback things. And if you compare Zach Wilson's first 2 years to pretty much every franchise quarterback of the last 20, 25 seasons, yeah, he's worse than just about every one of them. We understand that, okay? We get it. That's why the Jets moved heaven and earth to replace him with a 39-year-old quarterback. But that's not his job anymore. Right now, Zach Wilson's job is to be the backup quarterback on a win-now team. And what has Zach Wilson done in the preseason that would be bad for a backup quarterback? I don't understand it. Yes, there were a couple of airmail throws. He had the hospital pass to Bam. The Mecole Hardman throw, I actually thought was a pretty good ball because if he threw it any further, it would have been out of the back of the end zone. He gave his receiver a chance. The defender made a good play. No turnover-worthy plays in the entirety of the 2 games. And what you want to see with a backup quarterback is a guy who just has command of the offense and just knows what he's doing. And last year, you could have never watched football before in your life, and you would have seen a kid completely rattled and shell-shocked. Now, okay, it's just the preseason, but that's the only games we have to go off of, and we know we'd be crucifying him if we went out there and threw 3 picks. So if we're going to watch the games, then you got to be able to give credit when he does positive things and not only, criticism when he does negative things. And I'm looking at around the league, okay, the Kansas City Chiefs, Super Bowl champions, their backup quarterback is Blaine Gabbert, who for his career, I have 56% completions, okay, 6.1 yards per attempt, and an even touchdown interception. His career stat line is almost verbatim Zach Wilson. Zach with a little bit more interceptions, and Zach with actually higher yards per attempt. Same exact completion percentage. Same exact winning percentage of games played. Or Kyle Allen of the Buffalo Bills, last 2 years, he's been in 4 or 5 games. 59% completions, 3 touchdowns, 4 picks. Team hasn't won a single game he's been in there. So if the Jets are completely botching their backup quarterback situation, that's fine. But then so are the Kansas City Chiefs, and so are the Buffalo Bills, and so are the Cincinnati Bengals. Have we not seen what we saw? We played backup quarterbacks last year. We saw Brett Rippon. We saw Trevor Siemian. We saw Teddy Bridgewater and Skylar Thompson. Most backup quarterbacks suck, okay? I'm not saying that's how you want to construct your team, but unless you want to be one of the few teams who shells out $6 or $7 million for a good backup because you have an unproven or very injury-prone quarterback, that's where you're at. That's where you're at. And I don't deny that the floor with Zach Wilson is terrifying. Even like the Patriot games, yes, if that was your backup, it would be horrible for a backup. But I've seen Zach Wilson play over a dozen plus games that would be just fine for a backup. It'd be disappointing for a number 2 overall pick, managing the game, not doing any major mistakes, a couple missed throws, couple nice throws. Games against Buffalo and Miami or Pittsburgh or even Denver, Green Bay. You'll take that for a backup quarterback, or at least pretty much all the other teams in the NFL would. So there it is with Zach. It's all about perspective, and I think that his showing has been fine for what his job is to be on the team this year. Now, running backs. Dalvin Cook, are we completely over Dalvin Cook? Let me know in the comments below. Now, I've been I've been pretty much on the fence. I've said, of all the people who are on board with signing Dalvin Cook, I've wanted to give him the least amount of money. I'll put it that way. I've said, sure, give him $3-4 million. I don't deny he's probably a little bit better than Bam Knight, all right? But to me, like the Cook sycophants who just shout, Pro Bowl, 1,000 yards, you idiot. It's like, guys, I'm not even asking you to watch his film, which I have at least done, or even peek into the complete nerd stats, which I have also done, but drops, okay, not a nerd stat. Fumbles, not a nerdy thing. Pass protection, pretty fundamental component of running back play. Breaking tackles, not a nerd stat. These are all readily available to us with 90 seconds of looking into this player, and he does those 4 things, bottom 5 percentile as any running back in the league. 49th out of 49th in pressure rate allowed as a pass protector the last 2 years. By far, the 48th guy was like way higher than him. He got Kirk Cousins annihilated. And if we're going to pretend that doesn't matter, when Aaron Rodgers had a down year last year because he's nearly 40 years old and he had busted ribs and a broken thumb, and our biggest question is offensive tackle, and we want to put the worst pass protecting running back next to Aaron Rodgers. That's your plan. Well, then he must be able to do some other incredible things to make up for that. Okay, he puts the ball on the turf more than any other running back. Turnovers don't matter now, apparently, to the Cook sycophants. Dropping passes, do we like that? I don't. Yes, he's a better athlete than any running back on this team not named Breece Hall. He's got some twitched up gear to his legs that a lot of these players don't have. But running back is the most team-dependent position in sports. And the Jets running backs last year were in running back hell. I would love to see Dalvin Cook get 1,000 yards and 4.5 yards a carry running behind Dan Feeney and Mike Remmers with the least respected passing offense in the entire NFL. I'd like to see him do that. And if you want to bring him in, and it's always, oh, you're afraid to get better, same old Jets fan. No, I'm not. How many videos do I make of wanting to bring in every damn player on the planet if they're good, like DeAndre Hopkins? But Dalvin Cook does things that will negatively affect your team. And maybe a patched up shoulder will make him break tackles more. You want to give him $3 million. The reason why I'm harping on the money is not because I care about cap space a ton, whatever. Aaron Rodgers took a big pay cut. We got to spend it somewhere. But if you're going to bring in Dalvin Cook, I want them to sign him to a contract to where if he's fumbling and he's getting Aaron Rodgers annihilated and he's dropping passes and he can't break tackles, and Michael Carter looks like 2021 Michael Carter, who was objectively a more efficient back than 2022 Dalvin Cook, not a take, not an opinion, then he needs to be able to be on the bench. And if he's unhappy being on the bench, then he's off the team. That's the kind of contract he needs to have. NFL GMs have spoken about Dalvin Cook and Ezekiel Elliott's value. I know fans don't want to look past the name. They don't want to look past the counting stats, but NFL GMs have, and that's why they're both free agents, and that's why they're both doing these media tours trying to drum up, fabricated demand that does not exist. So there it is on Cook. Want to give him $3 million, play him over Bam Knight, that's fine, but that's just where it is. Okay, so now this Jets draft class. It's a Jets beat reporter who I do respect, who I think is going to come on the show at some point. Before the season starts. I think he does great work, but I remember seeing a tweet of him doing, a little video or whatever, right after the Jets draft and saying how the Jets had an underwhelming draft and they failed to get impact players this year and it was a bad draft. And I'm like, people really say this stuff without watching these guys take a single snap. And it's fine. Not all of you have a more of a life than I do, and you can't watch every snap of Will McDonald the last 2 years. That's fine. My life was in a place a couple years ago where I could do that, and you're still allowed to have an opinion on the team, and I'll still cut it up with you. But if you're going to make declarative statements like calling a guy a bad pick or a bad draft, I would imagine you at least roll the all-22 for an hour. And these guys aren't doing that. People who say this, it's kind of crazy. The Jets got in this draft, in my opinion, in the first and second round, they got the Will McDonald, who has I believe the highest pure pass rush ceiling of any Jets edge since you-know-who, since my first jersey, my favorite player growing up, John Abraham. We haven't had a twitched up dude who can just win with freakish bend, get off, athleticism, length, since him. We haven't. And then Joe Tippmann, I think, is going to be a stud starter in this league for a decade at center. And then the rest of the picks, we didn't have another pick till the fourth round. Fourth round and on a good roster, you're getting developmental players. Izzy will chip in. Zaire Barnes will be a special teamer. Zach Kuntz, who knows, take a lottery shot on the most freakish tight end in combine history. For what it's worth, Carter Warren and Jared Bernard-Converse were not my cup of tea. I think Carter Warren's never going to be a starter, but I thought that about Max Mitchell last year, and he ended up playing okay. So it's really the first two picks where you got to cash them in, and I think the Jets absolutely did. And the idea that, Joe Tittman, he was on third string in July, and JMS is starting. Well, JMS is fucking 26 years old. I'm sorry for the language, but come on. Like, Joe Tittman, I'm exaggerating. I think he's almost 25. But Joe Tittman is like 2.5 years younger, and I liked JMS. I mocked him to the Jets all the time because before they signed Connor McGovern, re-signed him, I wanted them to get a plug-and-play center, and I thought JMS was more pro-ready to play with Aaron Rodgers. But once you brought back McGovern, okay, now, and you have Schweitzer, so now Tittman doesn't have to necessarily start right away. He's younger, he's more athletic, and he's probably a better scheme fit. And 3 years from now, if we're looking at Joe Tittman being better than John Michael Schmitz, I'm not surprised at all. At all. I think we got, we went from Kevin Mawai to Nick Mangold to a few dark years, and now we got the next one. And with Will McDonald, my goodness, I don't know what the scouting term for it is, okay? But when he dips and rips and he gets his pass rush win, the ability to get back upfield to a quarterback who's, you see when pass rushers, they get their win and they're walled upfield by an offensive tackle, but that bend, I don't even know if it's bend, but that ability to get back upfield and to close the rep with a sack. Man, he does that so well. And out of the wide nine, it's going to unlock his potential. And I think by year 3, you're going to see a 10, 12 plus perennial sack guy, but you're not going to have to wait to see flashes. He's going to have an impact on this team this year. Situational pass rusher, him and Bryce Huff on third and longs together. Oh my goodness. And it's the subtleties to his game. He'll be better against the run than you think. He played 4-eye in college. He's wiry strong. Run defense isn't just about setting the edge. It's about blowing by the edge. It's about having good awareness, good football IQ. You want to make him the unblocked end in an RPO. Good luck. Rex Ryan would have this kid dropping back in coverage as a 3-4 outside linebacker. He's a complete football player. He's a pro. Excellent pick. Would I have preferred a stud offensive lineman? Sure, but none were on the board when we drafted. Goal of the draft is get guys at premium positions who can freaking play. And Will McDonald is that. He's a good pick. Now, finally, fullback, Nick Bawden. I think he will be on the team. Just somebody asked me, why not carry another tight end? I think we've been looking for a tight end that could do fullback stuff. We have a fullback that can do tight end things. I think, yeah, sure, Jeremy Ruckert is an H-back who's going to come across and wham, who can sift, through a split zone, fine, but just a lead blocker as an ISO, Nick Bawden's going to smash more. He is. And there's a reason why fullbacks are 5'11" and tight ends are 6'5". There's a leverage component to it. He's a good athlete. He's going to be using the passing game. He's going to play special teams. Nick Bawden's on the roster. So there it is. Zach Wilson, probably fine as a backup. Dalvin Cook, throw him a couple million. Not a big deal. These Jets draft picks can play. And Nick Bawden's on the 53. And we'll talk ball soon.